Welcome everyone, and thank you very much for joining this webinar by Merck Training and Consulting, a webinar entitled Instructional Design, Linking Learning Objectives with Learning Methods. Certainly, when we talk about designing learning interventions, we need to make sure that whatever we have in mind, whatever we have in terms of objectives, is actually going to be achieved. And this is what every trainer hopes for, what every training manager hopes for, what every participant hopes for, and certainly what every company hopes for. So that's why I thought of having this short 45-minute or maybe a little bit more webinar to explain a little bit about instructional design and how we can, as training professionals, as learning and development experts, really benefit from some know-how in terms of delivering, in terms of designing, or in terms of evaluating how training is designed. Because even if you don't deliver training and you are a training professional, sometimes you need to check with your provider or with your internal trainer whether they are really doing a good job in terms of the training deliverables. Before we go through, allow me please to again welcome everyone, give you some guidelines regarding the webinar, then have a quick introduction. So the webinar is recorded, and that's why you can access it later on through Merck website and through our social media channels. So if someone misses it, or if you would like to recommend it to someone else, they can go to Merck website. It's going to be recorded. It's going to be also available on our YouTube channel for you to watch it if you would like to repeat it, or if you'd like to share it with someone else. So that would be a substitute of sharing silent slides only with the participant. You will have the full thing available at your disposal. So for those of you whom we didn't have the chance to introduce Merck to before, allow me to introduce the company very quickly. Our company has been established since it was established, in fact, in 1958. So it's about 64 years right now, such a long time. I wasn't there, to be honest, in 1958, but the company was there. The company now operates in GCC, Middle East, Asia, Southeast Asia, Europe, and Africa. And it operates in terms of public courses, in-house courses, consulting, and coaching services. The categories within which we provide those services are so plenty, and we're gonna discover them in a minute. If you wonder about the name stands for the 5 values that we strive to live by on a daily basis: mastery, excellence, innovation, reliability, and client centricity. And we always envision to become your most trusted partner in developing excellence for the generations to come. For that aim, we provide those services in all the categories that you can see in front of you, whether in human resources management and training, which is the category of this webinar, in accounting and finance, customer service, contracts management, project management, leadership, security, and so many other topics. We also provide these categories in collaboration with so many international accreditation bodies and associations that have given us their trust. And we name here few, like the CMI, the ILM, the Society of Human Resources Management, the IOSH, and some universities like Heriot-Watt University. Before we move forward, I'd like to ask you, if you don't mind, to mute your mics, so that will allow everyone to focus on the content of the webinar. And please open up your mic at any point in time you would like to share a note or to ask a question. You can use the raise hand feature in Zoom as well to do so. So this is quickly about the company, a little bit about myself. My name is Rabia. I'm a learning addict since 2001, where a training changed my life, changed the way I think, and changed the way I behave. And since then, I decided that this is going to be my career. This is going to be my profession, passion, and mission in the same time. I hold a bachelor and a master's degree in education and another master's in human resources management and training, currently pursuing my CIPD level 7 diploma. I worked around as an L&D manager, as a talent development manager with some teaching ventures in some universities. The areas within which I provide consultancy and training in Merck is in technical HR training, in leadership training, and HR consultancy. So that's quickly about myself. Just before we move any forward, I'd like to make sure that everyone can hear me well, can see my slides. Is everything okay? Anyone would like me to change anything with technical setup before we move forward? All good? I'm gonna allow a few seconds just to see if anyone has a problem. Okay. Please, can you type in chat yes if you can hear me well and see my slides and see my picture? Otherwise, type no. All right. Excellent. Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about our topic for today, which is instructional design, linking objectives to learning methods. Defining instructional design is a must first before we begin. I know it's a name that has been populated quite a while ago, and it's gaining interest, especially when we are moving towards the virtual learning, toward the pre-recorded learning episodes and the self-led learning methods. So that gave us more awareness about instructional design. But certainly instructional design has been there before the pandemic for sure. And the aim of it is to create learning experiences and learning materials in a way that results in acquiring and applying knowledge and skills on the job. And that's the definition as per the Association for Talent Development, shortly known as ATD. So an instructional designer creates learning episodes. The product of an instructional designer is a learning episode, is an experience through which the learners would go in order to acquire knowledge, acquire skills, and in order to apply those skills back on the job. And certainly, to do that, there's a very famous process that I believe we are very familiar with, but for the sake of alignment, I'd like to share this very famous process that's called the ADDIE process. So the ADDIE process is a 5-step model or a framework that allows instructional designer to create those learning episodes. And otherwise, to create those learning experiences, to create the learning content, and to put it together in a way that would allow learners, as we said before, to reach the learning objectives, which are, using whatever they learn in their job. And this is what we aim for, whether as training providers, whether as training managers or training professionals in companies, or as trainers that work and design those processes. Now, the job of an instructional designer has gained momentum recently, because before that, designing instructions was a competency required from the trainer or himself or herself. And that's why the trainer used to design their own learning material, their own learning methods, and go and deliver it in the same time. In some professions, the function of delivering training is separate from the function of designing the learning altogether, especially if in certain cases you are designing a self-led learning episode where no trainer intervention is required. So when we design a learning intervention, we go through 5 steps. Although we go through them dynamically and flexibly, and we move from one to another, sometimes not in order. However, the best way to go through designing a learning episode is, first of all, through analyzing the objectives, analyzing the needs, analyzing the audience, analyzing the current situation to ensure that whatever we are going to design would be fit for purpose. And then after the analysis phase, we go to designing the learning product or the learning solution in terms of drawing a line of sight between what we have in mind, where we are, and where we would like to go. And then we start developing around the design in order to have in hand our learning resources, in order to have in hand everything required for the implementation of the learning, and to evaluate all this by the end of the process. So when we design everything from the analysis towards the evaluation. And here, I don't want you to be confused. When we say implementation and evaluation, it doesn't mean that we reached the part where the training is delivered. This is all a design step, all right? So even the implementation and the evaluation are design steps and not delivery steps. So when we say the instructional designer is working on the implementation phase, it means that they are engaging with the participants and they are preparing the learning space. They are making sure that everything is set. They are communicating, they are scheduling, they are working around all the material to make sure that it is going to be implemented properly. And when we say that the designers are working on the evaluation, it means they are designing the evaluation tools and not actually evaluating the impact of training, or what is famously known as the Kirkpatrick or Jack Phillips models of training evaluation. So that's a little bit of an introduction about what instructional design is and what is the most famous process of designing learning episodes and designing learning instructions. Having said that, one has to understand that we start designing learning when we have an observable evidence that employees are not performing to the required level. So we start thinking about training whenever we collect evidence that employees are not performing at the required level. Whenever the number of complaints goes up beyond tolerable, whenever sales is not achieved, whenever the number of incidents on the shop floor are very high, whenever the financial reporting is not accurate. So whenever we have an observable evidence that someone's performance is not up to the required level, then we start thinking about designing instruction that would help them. So that's potentially when we identify a gap in performance. However, and I'm sure you know about that, not every performance gap is due to a competency gap. I'll say this again, and please give me your attention. Not every performance gap is linked to a competency gap. Like, just to have some fun, my target in 2020 was to deliver 175 days of training and consultancy. But I did not reach this target. I only delivered 127. Now, is that because I lack the skills? Maybe I lack some skills, nobody knows. But I believe the main gap in performance, which is around 40 or 50 days of billing, was due to the pandemic and not due to the competency gap that I have. And that's why when we want to design instructions, when we want to design training and deliver this training, we need to ensure that whatever gap we have is due to a competency gap, and it can be improved or bridged through knowledge and skills. Why? Because this is what we can achieve through learning. People, through learning, as we said in the beginning, they acquire knowledge and skills and they apply it on the job. Now, we hope as well that we can change attitudes. We hope that we can change beliefs. We hope that we can shift mindsets in training. But that's a little bit of a tricky thing that we hope that we can evaluate through observable behaviors rather than just wish for it, because whenever it is internal on an attitude level, it is unobservable, and that's why it cannot be evaluated, it cannot be measured versus achievement. So that's when we definitely use instructional design to bridge competency gap due to knowledge or skills. And by the end of the day, what we would like to see is a line of sight that connects learning needs or business needs to learning objectives and will be bridged through the learning methods. And this is going to be the core of our webinar today. So I'm not going to focus on training needs analysis because that's a different topic, but I hope that we can, what we can do through this webinar is to really decipher how instructional designers work around setting instructional goals and choosing their best methods in order to give their client, whether this is an internal or an external client, an effective solution that would actually bring performance to the inquired level. Having said that, we need to distinguish between two kinds of objectives. Companies asking for training usually hope for a change on the job. A company that is delivering a training on presentation skills for their business development managers hope that their employees would do better in front of clients. And this is what we call a performance objective, how they perform on the job. And this is what an instructional designer and a trainer and a training company hope for, but cannot really control, because this is happening beyond the learning space. What happens within the learning space is measured through instructional goals. So the instructional goals, unlike the performance objectives, describe the terminal tasks that learners will perform at the end of the course and not on the job. Now one would say, but Rabia, what I really aim for is something on the job. Yes. But let me ask you something, and I need you to give me your answer on the chat, please. The main responsibility of implementing on the job whatever I learn in the training is the responsibility of whom? I'll ask the question again. Someone goes to the training, they learn something, and then they will go out and they will implement it. They will do it on the job. Whether they do it or not on the job is whose responsibility? Dr. Muhammad says it's the responsibility of management. Any other insight? Jelaine is saying is the employee and the line manager responsibility to monitor the follow-up. Great. That's excellent. So as a matter of fact, Nuruddin is saying the learner. Yes, absolutely, the employee. So it's not the job of the learning part. It's not the learning stakeholders, the instructional designers and the training team. So where does the responsibility of an instructional designer or of a trainer ends? It ends by the end of the course in terms of direct responsibility. At the end of the day, there is a full partnership and everyone collaborates towards the end of the benefit of the organization. That goes without saying. However, we need to ensure that those responsibilities are segregated properly. So by the end of the course, there should be instructional goals that support the performance objectives, but they are not the performance objectives. And as a matter of fact, they answer a very simple question. What will the participants be able to do as a result of participating in this course? All right? So by the end of a course, whether it is a live instruction course, whether it is an instructor-led, a self-led, like any kind of learning, there is a mandatory question that needs to be answered early on when we are designing learning episodes. And this question is, what will the participant do or be able to do as a result of participating in this course? And certainly, now there is a very big struggle when it comes to this area. Now, a goal is something that everyone is familiar with nowadays in organizations. It is what you aim for. It is what you would like to achieve, whether on a personal level, on a departmental level, on a company level. And this applies for any kind of activity. Any kind of corporate activity needs to have a goal, among which a training or a learning solution needs to have an instructional goal. So some examples that I share with you are the following. Maybe I would like participants to be able to identify the essential components of a competency framework. And that would be an HR course. Maybe I would like participants to compose a report that informs internal decision makers. And that would be a report writing course. I might want my participant to apply an interactive planning process to the maintenance and manufacturing plants. Or maybe they need to synthesize a draft contract for public sector, or evaluate learning resources and development processes. All these are instructional goals that will happen in the conference room, in the training room, and we hope that if they achieve it properly by the end of the learning program, this will increase their chances to use it on the job. Now, please allow me to spend some time around some very common standards regarding instructional goals. And the word that we always need to ensure that show whenever we are looking at instructional goals is the word observable. Observable. Now, what does observable mean? Eventually, we aim for evaluating whether the learning was successful or not. And the only way to evaluate is to check whether the goal has been achieved or not. And to check whether the goal was achieved or not, we need to observe the outcome that the participant gained. Remember, it's all about what the participants are acquiring. But I cannot evaluate something within the system of the participant. They need to show me some observable indications that the instructional goal has been achieved. As a matter of fact, the word or the verb knowing is not observable. I cannot observe whether someone knows something or not. It's like something written in their mind. How can I tell whether they know or not? And that's a very common mistake. I want them to know how to negotiate, to know how to listen. It's something that we cannot observe and hence is not measurable. The verb to understand is also unobservable. How can I tell whether someone understands or not? The verb to learn how to shouldn't show in an instructional goal. The word acquires or the word appreciate. How can I tell whether someone appreciates or not? That's very difficult to tell, right? And if you are evaluating whether a training was or a learning was successful or not, you cannot check appreciation. You don't have a thermometer for appreciation. And that's why those verbs in the instructional goals need to be changed with some actionable, observable verbs that show in the learning objectives or in the instructional goals and will allow an external auditor, a training assessor, to observe whether this training was successful or this learning was successful or not. And that's why, in terms of knowledge, we can replace the verbs above with some more observable ones, like listing. List the 5 main reasons for poor listenings in organizations. Now, one would say, Rabia, you're being very lexical, very grammatical, very, obsessed, unnecessarily obsessed about what verb to use, because we know what we mean, right? However, the verbs above are very subjective and will not allow evaluation and will confuse the instructional designer when they are choosing the methods they need to incorporate in their instructional design. And I will share a very practical example right away. So that's why we, in instructional goals, we use the verbs list, describe, solve, classify, compare, verbs that someone can observe. To explain further, once you agree on the instructional goal with your instructional designer or with anybody handling the function of designing learning, then you will need to tie the objective or the instructional goal with an instructional strategy. And the strategy is the path that participants or learners will go through in order to reach the instructional goal. So the strategy is about organizing, sequencing a set of learning activities that will lead toward the instructional goals. And that's why if your instructional goal is to list, then the activities will be different than if you use in your instructional goal the word compose. And we'll see an example in a minute. And for every instructional goal, there is an instructional strategy that usually comprises some beginning activities, some middle activities, and some ending activities. The beginning activities might be some motivational tasks that would motivate the learner or get their attentions in order to undergo the instructional strategy and reach the objective. Sometimes beginning activities are to ensure that there is some prerequisite before we start the new learning. Sometimes it might be some clarification of what we are going to acquire during this learning set or this learning episode or this instructional strategy, just before we go through the main and most important core part of instructional strategy, which are the middle activities. And here I'd like to spend some time, if you don't mind, sharing the most common and most practical types of activities that would serve an instructional goal. So activities might be demonstrations. Think about cooking. Think about driving. Think about dismantling a water pump. Think about a presentation skills topic. You can demonstrate how things are happening. Now, let me ask you, when you demonstrate, do you build skills or knowledge? Mostly. Can you please type in your answer? If I demonstrate something how it is done to learners? Do they mainly acquire knowledge or skills of doing it? What do you think? Dr. Muhammad says knowledge. Ravi says knowledge. Great. So we cannot, Nuruddin, in fact, when you demonstrate something to someone, it's very, the chances are very minimal that they will know how to do it just by you demonstrating it. Maybe they will be able to name what you did right and what you did wrong. But if you want them to do it the same way you are doing it as an expert, it is not only enough to demonstrate it for them. And I always remember when my father said that he wants to teach me how to drive. And I said, I know how to drive because I've been watching you. But as a matter of fact, I wasn't. I wasn't able to drive. Role plays, where you write scenarios, you give briefs for participants, you set up a scene that is very similar to what happens in real life, is a very effective way of changing people's attitude. But usually it's not used for knowledge-based instructional goals, nor for skill-based instructional goals, unless your role play is about some communication skills. So role plays are mainly good to develop communication skills. They are good, but not any other skill. They are good to develop some or change attitude, but they are very minimal or very unlikely to be used when you aim to for participants to acquire knowledge. Now, presentations can be used as well, but same as demonstration, they are more towards knowledge, not toward skills. However, case-based exercises, project-based exercises are geared more toward some skills. Sometimes we use simulations and case-based exercises to change people's attitude. And for those of you who are fans of experiential learning, this is what it is all about. The Kolb cycle and the whole idea about experiential learning is when you put people in a certain simulation or a certain, really real simulation, like they can behave automatically. And then afterwards, you invite them to think about it, to think about their behavior in order to see the impact of those behaviors and change the attitude accordingly. Now, sometimes an instructional designer might choose an observation, which is a guided type of demonstrations, where we ensure further that more learning and more knowledge is acquired. And sometimes, if you want to develop skills, you might use peer teaching or peer review. And all this would be chosen differently depending on what kind of instructional goal you have in the beginning. And certainly, when you're done with the middle activities, with the core of the instructional strategy that you have, then you will go to the ending activities, reviewing, summaries, action plans, debriefs, tests, exams that would ensure to evaluate whether the instructional goal has been achieved or not. As an example, I'll share with you four instructional goals that are within the same scope of contract development, all right? But you will see that the method that will be used to achieve this instructional goal, which going to be part of the middle activities mainly, is going to be different. And although the four objectives or the four goals fall under the topic of contract development, you will see that if my instructional goal is to identify technical faults in contracts, then you can directly imagine what's going to happen in the training room, right? Or in the class. You can imagine that you are giving this participant or this learner a contract with some faults in, and you are asking them to highlight the faults. And that's very observable. But if my learning objective was stating to know the technical faults in contracts instead of identifying, then it's going to be messy. The evaluation is going to be messy. The design is going to be messy. If my instructional goal was to draft, for participants to draft technical contracts, then certainly this is an individual practice. And as you know, the first one would take maybe 15 minutes, while the second one would take 4 hours. And that's why the duration of the learning program is going to be different based on the instructional goals. Because the method is different and the skill and the knowledge that we aim to acquire by participants is more. While if I say to list the main components of a contract, that's a 15-minute thing, right? The verb listing is much easier than the verb identifying. Is certainly developing contracts is much more difficult than listing and identifying. And that's why I can do listing or make participant list the main component of a contract through a quick lecture or a quick quiz, which will take 15 minutes. While if I want participants to develop win-win agreements with contractors, then I can use a role play where there is a scenario for the contractor, another scenario for the procurement department, and they will sit together, they will discuss, and I will give them feedback. They will see what happened well, what went wrong, and I'll have some observers with observation sheets, and I have some questions for discussions, and then there would be a change in the mindset, hopefully, again, because we said changing attitude through instructional design is a little bit tricky, but at least I can guarantee through a series of learning strategies that this is going to happen as a matter of fact. So this is the way we think about instructional goals and learning methods. This is how we link them together in the world of instructional design. And this brings me to the end of this presentation. Allow me to give you now the floor to ask some questions in the remaining time and to check whether this webinar was up to your expectations. If you have any questions related to the topic itself, please feel free. The floor is yours, whether you want to type it on the chat or you would like to open the mic and say it out loud. So I'm going to allow some time for you. Maybe someone is typing anything on the chat. All right. In the meantime, allow me please to invite you in your free time to visit Merck website. And if you would like to know more about instructional design, and if you are interested in becoming a certified instructional design practitioner, we are offering a training very soon about that. You can go to this link and send it to you on the chat right away. You can visit it, and you can check the outline here, all the topics that you can discover and you can acquire through the ADI process with all the outcome and all the tools. This course is endorsed by the Society of Human Resources Management, and you will get professional development credits to renew your certification. And it is first scheduled now next month in the week of May 8th, and it's going to be also running again in Q4 in October 16th. So please feel free to inquire about it. I'll share with you on the chat as well my email address in case you would like to send me a note or ask about anything in specific regarding instructional design. By that, we reach the end of this webinar. I'd like to thank every one of you for joining. Thank you very much. It was a great opportunity. I hope it was beneficial, and stay safe, and Ramadan Kareem to all of you. Thank you very much, and have a nice afternoon.
Merck.com